Leaders and leaders, today we're talking about a very important topic, how to woo your audience. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever sat in a boring presentation. I think 100% all of us have sat in a boring presentation. It could be a meeting, it could be a one-on-one, but most of the time, most people don't know how to sway others. They don't know how to woo the audience. They don't know how to get them engaged. And today, that is the topic of discussion. And I'm here with the amazing Barbara Roche. And before we really get down, we all have to meet Barbara. So Barbara is the founder and managing partner of Barbara Roche and Associates and Speak Well Partners, where she splits her time between executive coaching, leadership development, and designing and facilitating workshop learning programs. She is the co-founder of She Speaks, Business is Better When Women Speak. Barbara is best known for blending her theatrical experience, Irish Catholic humor, and hard-won leadership skills to help professionals advance and succeed. She is the author of Commit to Confidence, 30 Strategies to Help Women Step Up and Stand Out. Prior to the pandemic, Barbara taught leadership communication at the Wharton School of Business. She is a certified facilitator with the Neuro Leadership Institute in New York, and she holds a master's in psychology from Northeastern University and is a proud member of Red Sox Nation. That's why I'm super glad to have Barbara on with us today. Barbara, welcome. How is everything?
Everything's great and not too sweaty right now, given that I'm in air conditioning. Yeah.
Well, Barbara, let's get down to it. When people see the word woo, I think we all have a different definition of it. Some people, they don't know what that means. Some people know what that means. But what is woo and why is it so important?
Yes. So woo, W-O-O, stands for winning others over. And based on the book by Richard Schell and Mario Musa at Wharton, they have a unique definition that I agree with completely. It's the idea of winning people over to your ideas, but using a relationships-based emotional intelligence approach instead of command and control, those kinds of things. And it's the secret to success with your colleagues, clients, bosses, even customers. So it can strengthen your persuasion skills, and it's a 4-step process. And we don't have to talk about all of them today, but it's basically, have you polished your idea so it's ready for prime time? Are you working on the barriers like differing beliefs and possibly some conflict, or maybe a bad relationship that could get in the way? Next is what I care about is, are you pitching and speaking in a compelling manner? And finally, you're not done if somebody says great idea or thanks for sharing. You're not done till you get a commitment. And some of the research, Kit, on this is interesting. It takes about 8 people in an organization to agree and sign on before your idea is going to come to life.
Wow. I have to say, when it comes to winning people over, I have a question, and I'm playing from the beginner's mindset. How long does it take? Can I really do this? I mean, if I really studied everything that you're saying in my next meeting or next presentation, can I really do it?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's about your presence. So before you even speak, let me just show you. Are you coming in the room with this? Where your eyes are down and you're so stressed, or you've got this pinched kind of expression on your face, or maybe you're taking note or something. No, are your eyes up? Are you engaging? Are you saying good morning or something? So the first thing is just your presence coming in the room. If you're already in front of the room because you're the presenter, how's your posture? Are you greeting people? All of these things are part of woo. And you might even think of them as more of the small talk phase. Even if you're an introvert, you can still engage people and say good morning. So I always say, start with, what is your presence saying? Okay, and then Kit, the answer to the rest of the question is, can I really do this? Is if you're rushing from one meeting to another, let's say you had a 1 o'clock that was supposed to end at 2, and then you have a 2 o'clock. And the 2 o'clock is where you're trying to persuade others, and you're going from one to the other. You probably haven't given yourself time to settle into your key words, your key messages. So you need that prep time. Otherwise, we're just left to the ones that are naturally skilled at this. And there are people like that, but most of us need that ramp to get reconnected to what we wanted to say. Otherwise, Kit, we ramble. And rambling, no go. There's no wooing in rambling.
Yeah. Barbara, you talked about presence and, of course, rambling and taking time to prep. Can you tell us, this is going to sound weird, but if an alien came down to Earth and they knew nothing, okay?
Okay.
And you had to tell the alien the perfect things to do.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about presence, and they were asking, what should they do? What's the best way? What's the best way to prepare? Like, okay, in advance, how do you do it? Like, what are the right steps to all of that?
Well, let's start with the most famous 3-part series. It goes back hundreds of years to the ancient Greeks. So the first thing I would teach this alien is ethos, logos, pathos. So let's go through them, because if you master this, you're going to be doing much better with your wooing. Number 1, ethos is your credibility. So why you on this topic? What are you bringing into the room in terms of success and expertise, knowledge? That's all your credibility. And it's the answer to this. Why should we listen to you on this topic? Second is logos. That's your logic, your evidence, your data, your charts, your graphs, your tables. All that is in a way that is aligned to your audience, not just any audience, but the one in front of you. So you've made some edits. And it's succinct. I can easily follow it and grasp it. Most important, in my world, is pathos. And that's the ability to connect in an emotional level, to use your energy and your dynamism, your passion for this topic to connect with your audience. So pathos is the one that's almost always missing in business audiences, business presentations, and it's the one that really, really matters. So I always teach my clients, yes, we know your credibility from your bio and your job role and the fact that you've been running this project. And we know that you've done a good job because I've seen your deck and I've helped you narrow your slides. Okay, so now it's how much do you care and how are you going to get others to care? So we'll start with that, Kit, as your alien from another planet. All they needed was 3 things.
Oh, that's great, right? Ethos, pathos, logo. So let's say, how do we get our audience to care? And one of the main things they're saying is pathos. So now the alien is asking, how do you do it? How do you do it?
Well, you got to get out of your shoes and you got to get into their shoes, the audience's shoes. There's a siren going on outside, Kip. I hope it's not disrupting us. Anyway, it is. What does your audience care about? What does your audience have as a pain point? And what I love to do is have my clients think, all right, what does my audience know already coming into this versus what I'm going to share? So I'm not going to repeat myself and bore them to tears. I'm actually going to know already where I should start with my content. So let's get into that audience analysis. And I hope people listening can see this takes time. Ethos, logos, pathos takes time. The 4 steps of woo takes time. And now engaging that audience so that relevance is king. And when I leave as your audience member, the first thing I think to myself was, well, that was time well spent. And there you go. That's the strategy.
So let's say we're getting to know our audience. Are there certain questions to ask that you often ask, or there's certain things that we should do?
Mm-hmm. I am thinking about the 2 favorites that I have. One, I say to my clients, what keeps this audience up at night? So for example, Kit, just for fun, let's pretend I was presenting to you. When you're running your business, okay, and you do a lot of work around BostonSpeaks, what keeps you up at night around your business?
Let's say right now, should I go back in person or keep everything virtual?
Well, that's a good one. That is so good. I can't wait to be in person with you again, Kit. So I vote for in person. But yeah, okay. So if I'm going to know that about you, and I'm going to factor in your needs to my content. So that's number 1. 2, just for fun. What words would you use to describe yourself as a professional? Give me a few words.
Easygoing. I dive before I think.
I love That's so good. So you're ready, fire, aim. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, well, then for someone like you, I've got to bring my A game in terms of energy and variety and not going too slow. So you see how if I'm analyzing my audience, I can amaze my audience. If I don't analyze, there's no amazing going on.
That's great. Okay. Yeah. What if so we ask them though, but what if we can ask them and we're just thinking how do we know? Yeah. Do we just do the best to our ability?
Yeah.
And
good question. So how about this? Let's separate our audience today into two categories. Category one is you're talking about presenting in your company, all right? Have some meetings before the presentation. The meeting before the meeting. Talk to people. Do your legwork, because you can. I'm thinking about talking about this. Where are you on that? What would you like to hear? Whatever it is, like have meetings before the meeting. You will align much better, because that's category one. Category two is you're presenting like we do, Kit. It's not inside your company. It's maybe for companies or for different audiences. Then you have to do your best guessing. Who do I know who might show up? So for example, what I did for my preparation for this is I thought, all right, what would this audience want to know about persuasion? What would they want to know about woo? That is across industries, it's across job roles. I could be talking to this person with stage fright, or I could be talking to the Zen warrior who loves to speak. Where could I go with my content? And these elements that we're talking about are universal. So that's how I did it. And so you just think, what would my audience most resonate with? And that's what I'm going to focus on. As Stephen King has made popular, but it wasn't his original quote, is the best writer, speaker, persuader kills their darlings. That means you got to take stuff out. And the way you take it out is to know who you're speaking to.
Actually, let's talk about that. I love that. Taking stuff out. So how much stuff should be in there in the first place? So let's say I'm talking about like ideas to get across. Let's say this is, you have 10 minutes to give an update or something. Okay.
10 minutes. Yep.
Versus 30 minutes versus an hour. Yeah. So how, I think a lot of people have that question of, if I want to woo my audience and I have so much information, yes, how do I really condense it to give the best stuff and to really woo my audience?
Yeah. Oh, love this question. And then I see a LinkedIn user saying they love this topic, but does it have to be different for every event? So let's take them both. Kit, here's the thing. One of my first clients in this business, and I just launched my public speaking work, called to say that they had the worst experience of their life. Just picture a large credit card company, very high up, speaker had all the VIPs and decision makers in the room, had 32 slides. The most important decision maker comes up 5 minutes before they're going to start and says, hey, we'll call this person John. Hey, John, I just got called back to the office. What's the gist of this presentation? Like, what am I supposed to know so I can leave without missing the whole thing? And guess what happened to John? Kit, you want to guess what happened to John?
He didn't get to the point?
He froze, because all he was doing was relying on his 32 slides to guide him like a teleprompter through the presentation. He didn't have any key message memorized. So what I always say to my audience is, first, I should be able to have you rattle off your 3 key messages like that, because you know them so well. And that way you can adjust in real time. Let's say, as most of my clients do, they were given 20 minutes and all of a sudden it's now 7. This happens everywhere. You got to be able to do the 7. You have to be able to condense, and that's knowing your key messages and your top 2 or 3 data points. So our LinkedIn users saying, do these things have to be revised and revisited for every event? Let me tell you, there are some very lucky speakers out there. One comes to mind, in case everybody knows them, is somebody like a Jim Collins. Jim Collins, Good to Great, he's asked to speak on Good to Great a lot. So Jim gets to use a lot of his content again and again because he has new audiences that want to learn about Good to Great. A lot of authors and keynoters have that benefit, okay? The rest of us, we're revising all the time because our audience is different, our topics are different. One week you're speaking about sales revenue, and the next you're speaking about how sales reps can listen better. You know, it changes. So yes, the core of it will change if your audiences change and your topic changes. But if you're lucky to speak on the same topic more than once, you'll see that all that homework and legwork will pay off because you get to use it again and again. So for example, Kit, this is not my first time talking about ethos, logos, pathos. So I know what to tell you in a very quick way that gives you the sense of what I want you to work on.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. Have, like three, should it be 3 key messages every single time? So can it be more? Should it be less? Because, I think some people have heard, well, maybe you should wrap everything under one idea.
Yep.
And then have 3 key messages. Or should we just have, does it,
yeah.
At the end you're saying is, okay, maybe it depends on the audience.
Right.
So question to you actually is, should we have one main message or 3 or 2 or 3 or 4 messages? Yeah.
Let's go into the neuroscience of what's called working memory. That's where the answer lies. Every brain has a working memory, and it's not that big. And our short-term memory is not that big either. It's full of so much stuff. So if you don't want a major drop-off and people failing to remember your content, then you're going to want to keep your messages to about 3. Research has shown that the average person, a busy audience member who's distracted by this, can retain about 3 messages. Now, that doesn't mean that they all have to be 3, and it could be 2, it could be 1, it could be 4, but keep your messages in a small number. And that means all that other stuff goes in an appendix. I wish I had one handy, I don't. They all go in an appendix. You don't have to cut them forever, but put them in a handout, put them in an email after. Do not cram your talk with too many message points. So that's the gist of it, is working memory is a very important concept.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's talk about this. When you say key messages, I think most people understand what that means. It's the thing that they want to get across. But when you say key message, is there anything more that we should know about the key message?
Yeah. So one thing to think about it is almost like, what's that term, Kid? Is it wireframe? I think it's wireframe that they use in technology. It's sort of like a flow chart. So what I say is, what is the carryout message? Okay. So for example, when I'm doing my women's leadership communication workshops, my carryout message is, I help women stop playing small. We're going to stop playing small. We're going to step up, stand out, be in the meeting, help make the decisions, speak up, all the things. So what's the carryout message that I want you to repeat this afternoon, tomorrow, possibly next week? So you might then remember, yes, women need to stop playing small and show up wherever decisions are made. Okay, so that's carryout. Some people call it the walk away or the takeout message. Then within that, there is a structure to your presentation that is easy to follow. And this is where order and logic and sequencing can pay off. But I always say to my audience, pretend that you're going to get cut off. Pretend that your 20-minute talk all of a sudden is 11 minutes. Always put your most important message at the top. That way, if you do get cut off and you can't get to message 3, you've still given them an important thing to think about. Okay? And then you go to your next message point. And then the last one, we argue, maybe message 3 is your most relevant, or maybe it is the deepest you go in the content. Okay? So let's say I was talking about active listening for sales reps. The first thing I would talk about is, what's your talk-listen ratio? Message number 1. What's your talk-listen ratio? Message number 2 could be, how do you ask good questions and then sit quietly while they actually answer? And 3 would be, what triggers you to stop listening? So now I've got my 3 things that I'm going to talk about. If I never got to the 3rd, I'd still be okay. And they all would roll up into, successful sales reps are great listeners. That's my carryout.
Oh, I love that, the carry out message.
Yeah.
So it seemed like all the messages, and even the carry out message was short
Yes.
when you said it.
Short.
Got it. So it's what I'm taking away. It should be something that others can say
Yep.
to others in
Reach.
the way that you basically said it, without taking too much time to really think about
Right.
it.
The key word is repeatable. Repeatable and memorable. Now, anybody on this webinar who's in pharma, at the sciences, you have messages that are very dense and very long, and that's unique to your industry. And so we're not saying dumb it down, because sometimes you might need a lengthier carry-out message. So-and-so protocol and stage 3 trial shows promise, but only for 10% of the, you might have to have a longer carry-out message based on your industry. But just remember, you're trying to get it to be repeatable.
Barbara, coming from the audience side, it just seems like it takes a lot of work thinking about the message, doing all this stuff on top of my emails I have to answer and my real work.
Yes.
Does it really take long? Like it seems like work, Barbara. What do you have to say against those people who might be thinking exactly what I'm saying right now?
Well, that's why every client I have in the consulting world, the McKinseys, the Bains, they're up at 1 a.m. finishing their deck for their client, because it does take a lot of time and you have your other work. So yes, I don't want anybody leaving here thinking, oh, piece of cake. It's not. It is actually time and work. But guess what? This is about your core communication abilities, which is a career advancer. And without them, it's a career derailer. So I say, compared to what? But yes, you have to have a process and a structure so that the time you do spend is well used. So for example, a lot of people, Kit, will open up PowerPoint or Keynote and just start typing. This is not the way to use your time well. You're going to spend more time. And then if you're like me, you can get down the rabbit hole of just the right image to use on a slide, and that's 90 minutes gone. So instead, start with a wireframe. Start with a piece of paper and a pencil. Some people use Post-it notes on the wall. Whatever works for you. Get your structure down. Get your key messages down. Do your audience analysis. And now, PowerPoint's going to be a breeze. You see, but if you try to do PowerPoint first, before you've thought anything through, all you're doing is from here to there, and then I don't even edit it. And now I've got 17 message points, and I got to use my slides to remember what's on there.
Wow. Yeah, this is great. The alien is coming back, Barbara. So the alien is saying, Barbara, the information that you're giving us, this is great. The alien's interested, Barbara. Do you have certain speaking habits that you do, the way that you prep, things that you do because you've been in this game for a while, that the average person maybe does not think about or does not do? So think of, if I'm the alien and you can just give me all the habits, give me the best things that I can incorporate in my life. Of course, not all of them, but some of the things that you do personally. Barbara, do you have anything to share that others might not be doing, or even it could be very simple?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a fun concept around that, which is, if you thought of every communication moment, presentation, keynote, panel, participation as energy. Forget about content, right? The number one tool is, how do you want to show up? So if I'm talking to the faculty at, let's say, Cal State, let's say UC Berkeley, okay, let's say I'm talking to them, and I'm going all cheerleader energy, we're going to swing and miss, right? But I still have to show up fully. So what am I trying to put across? I'm trying to put across gravitas. But if I'm talking to, let's say, which I'm going to do in 2 weeks, the seniors in a business academy in a high school in New Jersey, I can be more animated and have a little bit more fun. So it's about aligning with your audience and showing up with energy. Your version, not mine, right? Each of us has our own way. Extroverted energy is different from introverted, and it's all beautiful. But that's the first thing. Show up fully. Secondly, if you're so dead set on either memorizing your talk or not forgetting one tiny thing, you will throw yourself off. So what I do is I say, there's a quote by Charlie Parker, the great jazz musician. Somebody said to him, Mr. Parker, how'd you get so good at this instrument? And he said, well, you pick it up as a kid, you go to classes, you take lessons, you get a coach, and then you get on stage and you forget all that junk and you just blow. And so what happens when it's time to go center stage is get rid of your notes. I mean, you can certainly have them nearby. Okay, I have some notes nearby just in case, to just have them near there. But they want to see you. You're the show, not your slides, not your beautiful little graphic. Those are all great, but you need to show up. So that's another thing I do. And then lastly, what I try to do is anything you can to engage the audience. If it's a very academic, let's say science-based or tech-based talk, your maybe only option is to ask a question of your audience. Even if it's rhetorical, doesn't matter. That can engage. But if you have time to take comments or pose a question that they do answer, I always add engagement, no matter what the talk is.
Oh, this is great, Barbara. This is great. Okay, we talked about Ethos, Logos, Pathos, and this is great. On how to woo your audience.
Yeah.
And it's what I love about the message is how you show up, right? Your presence, your energy. That is a big one. What else is there to talk about? Of course, it's a big topic.
So many, so many. Well, I would say let's take Ethos, Logos, Pathos, and go to the next level. So let's say you've done that. You've decided, I understand why me on this topic. I know how to bring my credibility. So everybody who's listening, here's what happened. Kit introduced me. So we call that, there's all kinds of ways, but I call it the entrance credibility, meaning he's described my background and my expertise. So I brought that with me. Now what I'm doing, hopefully, if this is all going well, is I'm building it as I go. So you see me as someone who's a go-to reference for this topic. So that's called built credibility. And then by the time we end and you leave, you have enhanced credibility about me. So that's one thing that we have. Some that comes in with you, your job role, your work, your expertise. Then you build it during your presentation, hopefully, because it's compelling and concise. Then what we're going to do is show that you care. Now this is the Pixar culture motto, make the audience care. So what I always say is, you've got your choices around logos, you know how to show your passion and show that you care about it, don't hide that. The next thing is, how are your body language messages coming across? So your nonverbals. I happen to talk with my hands. I work really hard on calming them down so they're not too busy. I'm also a swayer, so I work really hard on standing still. And then chin up, eyes up. I'm not looking at a thumbnail down here, and I don't have two monitors where my camera's over here. I'm actually looking right at you. Those kinds of things. The next is, can they hear you? So Kit, just for a good quiz question, on a scale of 1 to 10, no microphone, what do you think the average speaker should hit so that everybody can hear? Any guess?
Like a number?
Yeah, a number between 1 and 10, where it's a good volume.
8.
Really good. So roughly around 7. And right now, Kit, I don't have to hit a 7 because I'm in my office and I don't have any extraneous noise, but otherwise I'd have to raise my voice. When you're in a room with 25 people and no microphone, what's a 7 for you? If I can't hear you, this is getting picked up over. So volume, body language, and then finally, this can't be de-emphasized is, for example, do you need casual language? Do you need very technical, precise language? Do you need formal language? So you want to speak in the way that your audience will most listen to you. And it's different for each organization and each culture.
Yeah, and this is bringing it back to really knowing your audience, right, Barbara?
Yes.
understanding, it goes
Yes.
back to the audience. What language do you use? Who are they?
Right.
Like you were saying, speaking to the executives or maybe to high school students, it's completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely different. And a compelling, concise, confident speaker understands the shift that needs to be made. So can you imagine me going like this? Good afternoon, high school students. I'm here to talk to you about career advancement. I mean, it would be brutal. Right? But I might, with a senior team in, let's say, the sciences, be a little bit more modulated. So.
Speaking about high school students, you reminded me, I did this one high school workshop over the summer.
Okay.
And I usually don't do high school ones. And this one high school kid was spamming Zoom the whole time. So yeah, audience, completely different, right?
That's so good. And how about this one, which I told my colleagues this would happen. We were doing a pro bono for high schools in New York City, and there was this one section that was so long and boring. And I kept saying to everybody, it's too long, it's too boring. We can't talk that much. And sure enough, everybody was saying, no, we got to leave it in. So in the chat, they would write, this is so awful. This is boring. What is going on? Like, they won't let you off the hook. They're going to tell you in the minute,
Yeah. Whew. Man, that Zoom can be brutal depending. Okay, but wow, this is great. If people are loving what you're saying, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Where can people keep on following you and connecting, and for coaching if they want to reach out?
Yeah. I am at barbararoche.net. Make sure you spell my name right. There's no A in Roche. It sounds like the bug, but not spelled that way. And I can be reached there. And also, I am at speakwellpartners.com for any women who would like to go to our fall She Speaks conference, but we also do lots of coaching and workshops. So speakwellpartners.com or Barbara at barbararoche.net.
That is great. Barbara, any last words before we go for the day? You gave us so many great insights already.
You are the show. People came to see you, and you're unique, and you have your own expertise and way of speaking. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be Oprah or Michelle Obama or Barack Obama. I mean, be yourself and make sure you show up fully. And if you make a mistake, or like when the siren was going on in the background, I started to think, oh no, they can't hear me. Just roll right off and just move on. Because at the end, I'm going to remember that about you. I'm going to remember that you just rolled with it and you had grace and you wanted to be up there. You wanted to speak.
Ooh, that's a great message, right? So I hope you take all of the carryout messages today that Barbara gave us. Barbara, I want to say thank you once again for joining us, and for everyone that's watching the replay or live right now. Thank you for tuning in. But Barbara, thank you once again for telling us and talking to us about how to woo your audience. Everyone go connect with Barbara after this video.
Thank you, Kit. It was great.